Hello everyone, this is B.V. Hermit. Today I am going to deal the third part of atoms. Here the topic is the Bohr's model of hydrogen atom. So before going to explain this atomic model, there is one more classical electromagnetic theory is there. So first we should know that concept. See, according to classical electromagnetic theory, the electron must radiate energy. It is in the form of electromagnetic waves. See, as shown in the figure here, as the electron is revolving, see, as electron is revolving from here, as electron is revolving in the spiral manner, then as per that, so which loses the energy continuously. So as it move towards the nucleus, so its energy going to loss continuously. Then the motion of the electron, it must be in the spiral inwards, and eventually, so finally, which is a fall into the nucleus. See here, this revolving electron in the form of spiral manner, so continuously its energy is going to decrease or losses takes place due to loss of energy. So it's that revolution of electron continuously, so that decreases towards the nucleus, and finally which is fall into the nucleus. Here their angular velocities and their frequencies would change continuously. Since frequency of the electromagnetic wave emitted by the revolving electron, see here, as this electron is revolves, which emits the electrons, so that which emits the energy, that is in the form of electromagnetic waves, which emitted by the revolving electron, which is equal to the frequency of revolution. They would emit continuously, so which emits the continuous spectrum. But we observe that atom emits only line spectrum. We should note that the atom emits only line spectrum. Thus, Rutherford atomic model failed to account for the stability of the atom. See here, this electron is continuously revolving with loss of energy, which is unstable. So that shows unstable. So that's why the spectrum of radiation emitted by the atom, so here in this case, so that shows the instability. Okay, that's why Rutherford atomic model failed to explain the stability of the atom. So finally the next thing is Niels Bohr's atomic model. See here, so that is the Bohr's model of the hydrogen atom. The Niels Bohr in the 1913 made a certain modifications in the atom or atomic model by adding the ideas of the newly developed quantum hypothesis, and gave a new atomic model. It is in the form of three postulates, in which the first of postulates is, see here, an electron in the atom which is revolving around the nucleus in a certain stable orbit without emission of the radiant energy. According to this postulate, each atom can exist in a certain definite stable state, and each possible state has a definite total energy. These states are called as stationary states of the atom, and these orbits revolving around the nucleus, which is called as a stationary orbit and non-radiating orbit. See here in the given diagram, which explains this is the nucleus. Here the positively charged, this is a positively charged nucleus, and a negative charged electron which is revolving around the nucleus. As per the postulates, an electron is revolving around the nucleus in a certain stable orbit. See here, this is a stable orbit. In case of, so this is unstable orbit. Here the electron is revolving around the nucleus with a continuous emission of energy. That's why this orbit is not stable. But this is a failure theory. Hence after this that Bohr's theory explains clearly. Electron is revolving in a particular stable orbit without radiant energy or without emission of energy. So this is the first postulates of the Bohr's theory. So according to this postulate, so each atom can exist in a certain stable orbit that is named as a stationary orbit. So which is also called it as non-radiating orbit. This is first postulate. Then come to the second postulate. See, in the second postulate, electron revolving around the nucleus only in those orbits for which an angular momentum is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi, where h is a Planck's constant. See, this is the second postulate. Electron revolving around the nucleus only in those orbits for which angular momentum is equal to integral multiple of h by 2 pi. See, this is integral multiple of h by 2 pi, where h is a Planck's constant. Then angular momentum is L of the revolving electron around the nucleus in a stationary state is quantized. That is, see here, so that is angular momentum L is equal to integral multiple of h by 2 pi. This is quantized. This is the second postulate. So it is about the second postulate here. Electron is revolving around the nucleus. Electron is revolving around the nucleus in a particular orbits. So then for which what happens here, the angular momentum of the, so this revolving electron, which is equal to, the angular momentum is represented by capital L, and the revolving electron having the angular momentum, that angular momentum is equal to integral multiple of h by 2 pi. It is quantized, where that's formula is L is equal to nh by 2 pi, where so n is an integer, n is equal to 1 2 3 4 so on, then h is a Planck's constant. So this is about the second postulate. So then third postulate. What about third postulate? Here an electron makes a transition from stationary orbit of higher energy to the stationary orbit of lower energy. In this process, a photon is emitted having a energy is equal to energy difference between initial and final states. See, this is an electron which is revolving around the nucleus, so having certain energy level. Then this is an electron, another electron which is revolving around the nucleus with a different energy state. Then energy difference between these two is equal to, see, energy of this one is taken as E1 and energy of this is taken as E2. Then final energy E is equal to E2 minus E1, that is equal to energy difference. See, where is it? See, if an electron excited from lower energy level to higher energy level, so within the short interval of time that will return to its original state. While returning, which emits a certain amount of energy. See here. So this is there is an electron. If that excited from lower energy level to higher energy level, again there is a what happens here due to one that excited electron while returning, so which emits a certain amount of energy in the form of radiation, that is equal E is equal to h nu. Then if the emitted energy having certain frequency, see, if nu is the frequency of the photon or energy, this means you can take it as a photon or a packet of energy. So having a frequency of the photon emitted when electron makes transition from the higher energy state to, that is higher energy state to lower energy state, so that the transition of energy, that is delta E is equal to change in energy, that delta E is equal to h nu, or h nu is equal to E2 minus E1. So energy in the higher level minus energy in the lower level, the difference, energy difference is equal to h nu, which is represented here. So E is equal to h nu is equal to E2 minus E1. This is the third postulate. So it's clearly shown here. So this is the Bohr's atomic model. Here the positively charged nucleus is present at the core. So the totally atom is empty space in which electrons are revolving. According to first postulate, electron which is revolving in a particular orbit without radiating energy. This is first Bohr's postulate. Then in second one, so electron is revolving means definitely there should be a angular momentum. Then angular momentum is equal to, so total atom is made up of empty space here. Then, so according to third postulates, energy of the revolving electron in the first orbit is, so somewhat that is taken as n1. So its energy is like this. In the second state, its energy is minus 3.40 electron volt. So like this. So the energy diff total when electron excited from lower energy level to higher energy level, so immediately, so that will return to ground state. While returning, certain amount of energy is losses in the form of radiation, that is equal to, so E is equal to, change in energy is equal to the E2 minus E1, that is equal to H nu. The next one is, so according to Bohr's postulate, so next there is one of the important derivation is there here in this chapter. There are three important derivations in which one is almost fixed to annual examination. See here, in which first one is radii of the stationary orbit. See, now we want to derive an expression for radius of stationary orbit electron, radius of the revolving electron in a stationary orbit. See, let us consider an electron. See, this is an electron of its mass m and whose charge is minus e, which is revolving in a around the nucleus of its charge is taken as plus Ze. The radius of the electron revolving around the nucleus is, take it as a r. So then electron is revolving with a velocity v, and z be the, here the z be the atomic number of the given element. The electrostatic, if the electron is revolving means definitely there should be a electrostatic force of attraction, and which that electrostatic force of attraction experienced by the electron because of the nucleus is, that is equal to, see here, so electrostatic force of attraction experienced by the electron, so because of the nucleus is equal to, here this is an equation. Why there is electrostatic force of attraction is developed means according to Coulomb's law. So here this is a positively charged nucleus and a negatively charged electron. The unlike charges are attract each other. Then, so that attractional force of attraction, that is F is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 divided by R square. This is a general formula. So according to that, F is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. Q1 means charge of the nucleus, that is Ze, and charge of the electron is taken as E divided by R square. Hence, so this equation becomes 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, keep as it is, E into E square. Then equation is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Ze square divided by R square. The centripetal force acting on the electron. Here we know that if an electron is revolving around the nucleus means definitely there should be a centripetal force. That centripetal force acting on the electron is, general formula is equal to mv square divided by r. This is the formula of the centripetal force. According to Bohr's postulate, this centripetal force is provided by the electrostatic force of attraction on the electron because of the nucleus. See here, according to Bohr's postulate, electron is revolving around the nucleus. So revolving means definitely, so there should be a centripetal force, and that centripetal force which is provided by the attractional force between positively charged nucleus and negatively charged electron, which provides the centripetal force. Hence, the centripetal force equals to electrostatic force. That's why mv square by r is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into z square divided by r. That is, so see here, so this r square send it to the LHS side. So then 1 r get cancel. First you need to cancel these r's. 1r get cancel. Remaining 1r is transferred to LHS side. Then the above equation becomes mv square is already there. Keep as it is, and this r is wrote here. mv square by r is equal to remaining terms here z square divided by 4 pi epsilon naught. This is equation number 12.6. According to Bohr's theory, the angular momentum of electron, see, according to Bohr's theory, angular momentum of electron, so according to second postulates of Bohr's theory, see, the electron is revolving around the nucleus having angular momentum is equal to integral multiple of h by 2 pi. That is, according to that theory, so angular momentum L is equal to nh by 2 pi, integral multiple of h by 2 pi. That angular momentum is equal to mvr. Angular momentum equation is, formula is mvr, that is equal, L is equal to mvr, that is equal to integral multiple of h by 2 pi, where n is integer 1, 2, 3, so on. Here, so we need to, we want v, nothing but velocity of the revolving electron. Hence, we keep there only m and r, send it to LHS side. Then remaining term v as it is, nh keep as it, is here. Then m in r, so that send it to RHS side. Remaining terms, so 2 pi already is here. We wrote here m and r come to RHS side. Then equation becomes v is equal to nh divided by 2 pi mr. On substituting this in the equation number 12.6, here, this is a 12.6 equation. Here we have this equation, that is m v square r is equal to z square divided by 4 pi epsilon naught. So we need to substitute in this equation, we need to substitute a value of v. In place of v, we need to substitute this value. Hence, from this equation, see here, m keep as it is here, m keep as it is, then r keep as it is here, then z square divided by 4 pi epsilon naught, so keep as it is here, but in place of v, we need to substitute this value, and here this is the v square, that's why n becomes n square, h becomes h square, 2 becomes 4, pi square, m square, r square. That's why, so m into n square h square pi divided by 4 pi square m square r square into r equal to z square divided by 4 pi epsilon. After substituting the value of v in this equation, so it becomes here, we wrote here 1m get cancelled, 1r get cancelled, remaining terms, so this in r square, there is a 1r is cancelled, remaining r send it to RHS side. Then it becomes, then the remaining terms z square send it to LHS side. At simple arrangements, it becomes, above equation becomes like this, r is equal to n square h square epsilon naught divided by pi m z square. So n square into h square epsilon naught divided by pi m z e square. This is an equation, and this equation represents the radius of the nth stationary orbit. See, so it may be the radius of the, this is the radius of the first orbit, here n value is 1. This is the radius of the second orbit, its n value is 2. Then radius of the third orbit, its n value is 3, like this. So this is an expression for radius of the nth orbit. Then r is equal to n square into h square epsilon naught divided by pi m z square. This equation gives the radius of nth stationary orbit. This equation gives the radius of nth stationary orbit, n is equal to 1, 2, 3. It follows that the radii of orbit are proportional to the square of the natural numbers. See, this radius or radii which is equals to square of the natural numbers, which is shows the radius of the orbit. Then, so for hydrogen atom, the z value is 1. If the z value is 1, the equation becomes, keep everything is as it is, r is equal to r, n square is equal to n square, h square epsilon naught keep as it is, pi m as it is, e square as it is, but in place of z, its value is 1, then this is the value. So then after that, r is equal to, see, that is n square. After substituting these values, here h means Planck's constant. Its value is equal to 6.626 into 10 to the power minus 34 joule second. Then next one is epsilon naught. Epsilon naught value is 8.854 into 10 to the power minus 12. So that is epsilon naught value. Then the next one is pi, that is nothing but 3.142. So it's a well-known term. Where m is the mass of the electron. So the mass of the electron is equal to, so we know that the value that is 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 31 kg in terms of kgs. So then last one is a charge of the electron. Charge of the electron is 1.602 into 10 raised to minus 19 coulomb. After substituting all these values, you will get the value is equal to 5.29 into 10 to the power minus 11 meter. The radius of the innermost orbit, see, the radius of the first orbit or innermost orbit, which is called as Bohr orbit. Then, so the radius of the innermost orbit of hydrogen atom is called as Bohr's radius. Since, so n is equal to 1 for the innermost orbit, Bohr's radius is equal to, so n value is 1. If the n value is 1, then r is equal to this value, h square epsilon naught divided by pi m e square. Its value is 5.29 into 10 to the power minus 11 meter. Why it is called as a Bohr's orbit or Bohr's radius? Because, so Bohr explains the hydrogen and hydrogen like atoms, that's why, so that's it is taken as Bohr's orbit. Thank you everyone.